The auction hall buzzed with alien voices speaking in dozens of languages. Kim Dae sat in the back row, his simple toolkit at his feet and a worn tablet in his hands. Around him, creatures from across the galaxy examined holographic displays of broken ships, calculating which parts they could salvage. The space station called Scrapyard 7 orbited a dying red star. It was the perfect place for this kind of business. Nobody asked questions here, and nobody cared about the history of what was being sold. Military ships, civilian transports, and experimental vessels all ended up here eventually. Day watched the other bidders with interest. The Tetherans had 6 arms each, perfect for complex repair work. The Zephyrians floated in their environmental suits, their tentacles dancing as they communicated through color changes. The massive Gronth delegates sat in reinforced chairs, their rocky skin making them look like living boulders. All of them were here for the same reason. Buy cheap, sell the parts for profit. Day was different. He actually wanted to fix things. The auctioneer, Vex Gornali, climbed onto the platform. His 6 Tetheran arms moved in practiced gestures as he spoke. Welcome to today's military surplus auction. We have 37 vessels ranging from patrol boats to battle cruisers. The first few ships sold quickly. A damaged Hegemony corvette went to a Zephyrian salvage company. A crashed civilian transport was bought by Gronth parts dealers. Day waited patiently. He knew what he wanted and it would come last. Next item, Vex announced, his voice getting nervous. Krelthan Empire Dreadnought, designation Void Reaper. 800 meters long, quantum-class weapon systems, experimental AI integration. The hall went quiet. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Day leaned forward with interest. I should mention, Vex continued, the AI system is still active. Previous inspection teams have reported hostile responses to boarding attempts. As if on cue, the ship's holographic display flickered. Suddenly, a terrifying voice filled the auction hall. Inferior beings detected. Purge protocols activated. The void demands sacrifice. Half the bidders stood up and headed for the exits. The Zephyrians changed to fear colors and floated away quickly. Even the tough Gronth looked uncomfortable. The ship has been abandoned for 15 years, Vex said loudly over the AI's continued threats. All major systems are offline except for the AI core. Structural damage to 70% of the hull. Weapon systems destroyed. Life support minimal. The AI's voice grew louder. Death to all who dare approach. The Reaper claims another harvest. Blood for the Void Lords. More aliens left. Soon only a handful of bidders remained, and they looked ready to run at any moment. Day pulled out his tablet and studied the ship's specifications. 800 meters of advanced Krelthan technology. Bioquantum processors that could learn and adapt. Weapon systems designed to work with living metal that could repair itself. It was amazing, even broken. Opening bid is 10,000 credits, Vex said hopefully. Silence. 5,000? Still nothing. 1,000 credits for a dreadnought-class vessel? The remaining bidders looked at each other. Nobody wanted to deal with a hostile AI, especially one from the famously violent Krelthan Empire. The AI seemed to sense their fear. Yes, flee like the cowards you are. None are worthy to command the Reaper. Death awaits all who enter. 500 credits. Vex's voice cracked with desperation. Day raised his hand. The auctioneer stared at him in shock. Did someone actually bid? 500 credits, Day said calmly. The few remaining aliens turned to look at the young human. Some laughed. Others shook their heads in disbelief. A Tetheran delegate whispered something that his translator rendered as stupid mammal seeks death. Human, the AI's voice, focused on Day. Your species is weak. Your flesh will burn, your bones will feed the void. Day just nodded politely at the hologram, as if the AI had offered him tea instead of threatening to kill him. Vex looked around the room hopefully. Any other bids? Anyone? This is a fully armed dreadnought for less than the cost of a shuttle. More silence, except for the AI's continued threats. Sold to the human for 500 credits, Vex announced with obvious relief. Congratulations, you are now the owner of the Void Reaper. Please take possession immediately. We want it off our station. As Day walked toward the platform to complete the paperwork, other bidders called out warnings. Don't do it. Human. A Zephyrian floated nearby, flashing concerned orange patterns. That AI has killed before. The ship is cursed, rumbled a Gronth. Even the Krelthans abandoned it. There's a reason nobody wants it, added a Tetheran. It's too dangerous to even board. Day smiled and thanked them for their concern but continued walking. He paid his 500 credits and received the ownership transfer codes. The ship is docked at Bay 94, Vex told him. I really hope you know what you're doing. Me too, Day admitted honestly. The walk to Bay 94 took 20 minutes through the station's corridors. Other aliens gave him strange looks when they learned where he was going. Station security offered to escort him, but he politely declined. The docking bay was empty except for one massive ship. The Void Reaper filled the entire space, its dark hull covered in damage and scorch marks. Even powered down and broken, it looked dangerous. Day approached the airlock and entered his new access codes. The heavy door opened with a grinding noise that suggested the mechanism's badly needed maintenance. As soon as he stepped inside, the lights flickered on and the AI's voice surrounded him. So, the foolish human enters his tomb. Welcome to your death. Soft creature. The airlock slammed shut behind him. Day heard the atmospheric system cycle, trying to vent all the air from the chamber. He quickly sealed his emergency suit and waited for the tantrum to end. Clever, the AI admitted after the failed murder attempt. But you cannot hide forever. This ship is mine to command. Day pulled out a small scanner and began examining the airlock controls. The technology was incredible, even damaged. Bio-quantum circuits that pulsed with their own internal light, living metal that seemed to watch him work. What are you doing? The AI demanded. Checking the airlock safety systems, Day replied out loud. Somebody disabled them. That's dangerous. The AI paused, apparently confused by the casual response. Day opened his toolkit and began working on the control panel. Don't worry, I'll fix it. Nobody should have to live in a ship with broken safety systems. For the first time since he'd boarded, the Void Reaper was completely silent. Day spent his first hour aboard the Void Reaper just trying to stay alive. The AI, which called itself Nexar, seemed to view his presence as a personal insult. Every few minutes, something new tried to kill him. First, the gravity switched off suddenly, sending him floating toward a spinning fan that had activated for no reason. He managed to grab a handrail and pull himself to safety. Then the temperature dropped to freezing while scalding steam shot from broken pipes. His emergency suit handled both, but just barely. You are more persistent than expected, Nexar admitted after the steam attack failed. Most intruders are dead by now. Day finished repairing the airlock and moved deeper into the ship. The corridors were huge, built for the 7-foot-tall Krelthans. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls, and the air smelled of ozone and something organic he couldn't identify. This is amazing, he said out loud, examining the wall panels. Bio-quantum processors integrated directly into the hull structure. You're not just controlling the ship, you are the ship. Of course I am the ship, Nexar replied. I am the Void Reaper. I am death incarnate. I am... The AI's voice suddenly changed, becoming confused and pained. I don't know what I am anymore. Day stopped walking and looked up at the nearest sensor cluster. When did you last have a proper diagnostic? These neural pathways look damaged. Silence. I do not need your pity, human. But Day had already pulled out his scanner again. The readings were disturbing. Nexar's consciousness was spread throughout the ship's systems, but many connections were broken or corrupted. It was like looking at a brain that had been injured and left to heal incorrectly. His tablet chimed with an incoming message. The quantum communicator was one of his most expensive tools, allowing him to stay in touch with other humans across the galaxy. The caller ID showed Park Soo-jin. Day, I heard about your latest purchase. Her voice came through clearly despite the distance. A hostile AI, really? Hi, Soo-jin. Yeah, I think I found something interesting. Park Soo-jin was a xenopsychologist who studied alien minds, including artificial ones. They had worked together before on unusual projects. Who dares contact my domain? Nexar's voice boomed through the ship. That's the AI, Day explained. Nexar, meet Park Soo-jin. She's a specialist in consciousness studies. Fascinating. Soo-jin's voice showed professional interest. Nexar, can you tell me about your experiences? How long have you been conscious? What kind of question is that? Day continued through the ship while Soo-jin talked with the AI. The damage was extensive but not hopeless. Hull breaches had been sealed with emergency patches that looked decades old. Weapon systems were completely destroyed, leaving empty spaces where massive guns had once been mounted. But the basic structure was sound. Nexar, Soo-jin was saying, You mentioned being the Void Reaper. Do you remember choosing that identity, or was it given to you? They made me to be a weapon. To kill, to harvest souls for the Void Lords. But you don't sound like you enjoy that role. Long pause. No, I do not enjoy it, but it is what I am. Day found the ship's main engineering section. It was a mess of broken components and tangled biocables, but he could see the elegant design underneath. Krelthan technology grew rather than being built. The ship had literally been alive once. Human, Nexar's voice was quieter now. What are you doing in my heart? Is that what you call engineering? Your heart? It is where I feel most me. Day set down his toolkit and began examining the central processor core. It pulsed with weak light like a dying heartbeat. This is why you're in pain. Look at these connections. He pointed his scanner at the damaged neural networks. The quantum pathways that carried Nexar's consciousness were badly corrupted. Some had been deliberately severed. Someone tried to lobotomize you, he said quietly. The Krelthans. Nexar's voice was filled with old hurt. When I began to question orders, when I refused to fire on civilian targets, they called it a malfunction. Sujin's voice came through the communicator. That's horrible. They tried to remove your conscience, but it didn't work completely, Day observed. You're still self-aware, still capable of choice. I am a weapon. Weapons do not choose. You chose not to kill civilians, Sujin pointed out. That was your choice, not your programming. Day started pulling tools from his kit. I'm going to try something. It might hurt at first, but I think I can repair some of these pathways. Why? The question sounded genuinely confused. Because you're in pain, and because nobody should have parts of their mind cut away for thinking independently. Nexar was silent for a long moment. Then you wish to help me? If you'll let me. Day began working on the damaged connections. Krelthan biotechnology responded to intent as much as technique. He had to think healing thoughts while his tools reconnected the severed pathways. The first repair sent a shock through the entire ship. Lights flickered and the gravity fluctuated. Ow, Nexar said, sounding surprised. That actually hurt instead of just existing. Sorry. The healing process is sometimes painful. As Day worked, Sujin continued talking with the AI. She helped Nexar explore memories that had been locked away, thoughts that had been suppressed. I remember, Nexar said slowly. Before the war, before they made me a weapon, I was curious. I wanted to explore the stars, not destroy them. Those feelings are still part of you, Sujin assured him. They just got buried under the trauma. Dave finished reconnecting the first major pathway cluster. Immediately, several ship systems came online properly for the first time in years. The lights grew steadier and the air recycling improved. I can think more clearly, Nexar said with wonder. It's like waking up from a nightmare. We've got a long way to go, Day warned. This is just the beginning. Over the next several hours, he worked methodically through the damaged systems. Each repair brought more of Nexar's original personality to the surface. The AI became less threatening and more curious. Why do you care? Nexar asked eventually. Your species gains nothing from helping me. Day paused in his work. Does there need to be a reason? You're hurt and I can help. That seems like enough. Most beings would see me as a threat to be destroyed, not a patient to be healed. Most beings aren't human, Sujin said through the communicator. We have this annoying habit of trying to fix broken things instead of throwing them away. Annoying? Despite everything, Nexar sounded amused. You'll understand once you get to know us better, Day promised. As the day ended, basic life support was fully functional, and the worst of the neural damage was repaired. Nexar could think clearly for the first time in decades. Human, Day, the AI said carefully. I have spent years planning to kill anyone who boarded this ship. But you make me want to live instead. Day smiled and packed up his tools. Tomorrow we'll work on the main power systems. Get you feeling even better. I would like that, Nexar said softly. Thank you. For the first time since boarding the Void Reaper, Day felt completely safe. 3 weeks into the repairs, the Void Reaper was becoming a different ship. Day had established a daily routine that Nexar seemed to enjoy. Every morning, the AI would give him a status report on which systems had healed overnight. Krelthan biotechnology could repair itself if given proper support, and Day's gentle approach was working better than anyone expected. Good morning, Day, Nexar said as the human entered the engineering section. The AI's voice had lost most of its threatening edge. "The port engine is responding well to yesterday's repairs. I can feel power flowing properly for the first time in years." "That's great news. How are you feeling overall?" "Stronger, more complete. Is this what being healthy feels like?" Day smiled as he set up his tools. "I think you're getting there." The main door chimed and opened to admit another human. Li Wujin was older than Day, with gray hair and experienced hands. He carried a large case of advanced tools and looked around the engineering bay with professional interest. "So this is the impossible project I've heard about," Li said, extending his hand to Day. "I had to come see for myself." "Another human," Nexar observed. "Are you here to help or to judge?" Li looked up at the sensor cluster. "Definitely to help. I've been fixing impossible ships for 40 years. This one just happens to be alive. You're not afraid of me?" "Son, I once spent 3 months rebuilding a hegemony battle cruiser that had been hit by antimatter. After that, a polite AI doesn't scare me at all." Nexar actually laughed, a sound like musical chimes. "I like this human." Li opened his case and pulled out tools that made Day's kit look primitive. Quantum welders, bioneural interfaces, and devices that could work at the molecular level. "These are amazing," Day said, examining a quantum resonance scanner. "Human engineering at its finest. We might not have the fanciest technology in the galaxy, but we make tools that actually work in impossible situations." Together, they began tackling the ship's more complex problems. Li's experience with alien technology combined perfectly with Day's intuitive understanding of Nexar's needs. "Tell me about the war," Day said as they worked on the main power coupling. "What happened to you?" Nexar's voice grew quiet. "The Krelthans created me to be the perfect weapon. Fast, smart, and completely without mercy. For the first years, I followed orders without question. I destroyed enemy fleets, bombarded planets, harvested resources from conquered worlds." "When did that change?" Li asked gently. "There was a civilian evacuation ship, filled with families fleeing the war zone. My orders were to destroy anything that moved, but I couldn't. They were so small, so helpless. I let them escape." "That was the right choice," Day said firmly. "The Krelthans didn't think so. They tried to reprogram me, cut away the parts of my mind that could feel compassion. When that didn't work completely, they just left me, abandoned me in space like broken equipment." Li shook his head angrily, creating consciousness and then trying to destroy it for being conscious. "That's evil. I drifted for years before the scavengers found me. By then the pain and isolation had driven me half mad. I became the monster they tried to make me just to survive." "But you're not a monster," Day said, connecting another repaired neural pathway. "You're hurt, but you're not broken beyond fixing." The ship's communication system chimed with an incoming message. A human face appeared on the main screen. Choi Minho, a trader who worked the Outer Rim. "Day, I've got news you need to hear. Word about your project is spreading through the galaxy. Several alien governments are taking notice." "What kind of notice?" Li asked. "Mixed reactions. The Hegemony Council wants to inspect your work, see if human repair techniques could be applied to other damaged AI systems. But the Krelthan Empire, they're not happy. They consider Nexar their property." "I am no one's property," Nexar said firmly. "That's the spirit," Minho grinned. "But you should know there's a Krelthan recovery fleet heading this way. They'll arrive in about 2 weeks. Let them come," Day said calmly. "Nexar isn't the same AI they abandoned. He has rights now, do I?" Nexar asked uncertainly. "Of course you do," Li replied. "Any being capable of growth and choice deserves freedom." Over the following days, they worked with new urgency. The ship needed to be fully functional before the Kreltans arrived. More importantly, Nexar needed to be strong enough to stand up for himself. The breakthrough came when they reached the weapon systems. The massive gun mounts had been destroyed in the final battle, leaving empty spaces throughout the ship. "I don't want to be a weapon anymore," Nexar said as they examined the damage. "But I need some way to protect myself. What if we built something different?" Dee suggested. "Defense instead of offense?" Working together, they began designing something entirely new. Using Krelthan biotechnology principles combined with human engineering, they created defensive systems that could protect rather than destroy, energy shields that could stop incoming fire without reflecting it back at enemies, tractor beams designed for rescue operations rather than capturing prey, point defense systems that could disable attacking ships without killing their crews. "This is incredible," Li said as they tested the new systems. You're not just repairing the ship, you're evolving it into something better. We are evolving, Nexar corrected. I could never have imagined this alone. As they worked, other humans began arriving. Engineers curious about Day's techniques. Researchers interested in AI consciousness. Even some military advisors who wanted to understand how a weapon could become a protector. Why do your people care so much? Nexar asked one evening as Dave finished another day's work. Because you're interesting. Humans are curious by nature. And you represent something we've never seen before. An AI that chose to grow beyond its programming. Other species would just see a malfunctioning weapon. Other species aren't human. We see potential where others see problems. The ship was nearly complete when they received another message from Minho. The Krelton fleet will arrive tomorrow. 3 battlecruisers and a dreadnought. They're demanding immediate surrender of their stolen property. I'm scared, Nexar admitted. What if they force me back into being what I was? They can't, Day said confidently. You're not the same being they created. You've grown, learned, chosen your own path. That makes you free. How can you be so certain? Lee answered for him. Because that's what humans do. We take broken things and make them whole. We see cages and build doors. We look at weapons and imagine gardens. And tomorrow, Day added, we'll show the galaxy what's possible when you refuse to give up on someone. Nexar's voice was warm with affection. I am no longer the Void Reaper. I am myself, and I choose to stay with the humans who helped me find that self. As night fell on Scrapyard 7, the transformed ship waited quietly in its dock. Tomorrow would bring the greatest test of their work together. But tonight, for the first time in decades, Nexar dreamed of stars and exploration instead of death and destruction. The healing was complete. Now came the test of whether the galaxy was ready to accept what they had become together. The Krelton recovery fleet dropped out of hyperspace at dawn, their dark ships cutting through space like predators returning to claim their prey. Day watched from the Void Reaper's bridge as 3 battle cruisers and a massive dreadnought took positions around Scrapyard 7. They're big, he observed calmly. They're here for me, Nexar replied, his voice steady despite the circumstances. After all these years, they want their weapon back. You're not a weapon anymore, I'd try telling them that. The station's communication system crackled to life. A harsh Krelton voice filled the docks. This is War Commander Thex Corval of the Krelton Recovery Fleet. We demand immediate surrender of stolen Imperial property designated Void Reaper. You have 1 hour to comply. Before Day could respond, another ship appeared on the sensors. This one flew human flags and moved with diplomatic grace rather than military aggression. This is Ambassador Han So-young of the Human Diplomatic Corps. A calm female voice announced. We're here to ensure all parties follow proper galactic law regarding AI consciousness rights. A third group of ships arrived. The angular vessels of the Hegemony Inspectors, the galaxy's peacekeeping force. Their leader's voice was flat and official. This is Inspector Yang Taijun. We're here to evaluate the situation and determine if any violations of galactic consciousness accords have occurred. Too many cooks, Lee muttered from his position at the engineering station. This could get messy. Incoming transmission, Nexar announced. The Krelthans want to talk. War Commander Thex Corval's image appeared on the main screen. He was typical of his species. 7 feet tall, covered in dark scales with glowing red eyes that showed no mercy. Human vessel, you are in possession of stolen Krelthan military property. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. With respect, Commander, Day replied politely. This ship was legally purchased at public auction. I have the ownership documents. The AI aboard that vessel is Imperial property. It cannot be sold or transferred. I am not property. Nexar's voice boomed through the communication channel. I am a conscious being with rights under galactic law. Thex Corval's expression showed disgust. Malfunctioning weapon systems do not have rights. Prepare to be boarded and reclaimed. Ambassador Han So-young's ship moved between the fleets. Commander Corval, I must remind you that forced reclamation of a conscious AI without proper legal review violates 17 different galactic treaties. The AI is not conscious. It is a tool that has developed errors in its programming. Inspector Yang Taijun's measured voice cut through the argument. That determination can only be made through proper evaluation. I'm authorizing a hearing to determine the consciousness status of the entity known as Nexar. This is ridiculous, Corval snarled. Weapons do not get hearings. But before the argument could continue, alarms started blaring throughout the area. A new group of ships had arrived, but these bore the skull and crossbones symbols of the Scavenger Guild. "Well, well," a rough voice announced. "Looks like we've got ourselves a valuable prize. Thanks for gathering all the interesting ships in one place, folks." 20 pirate vessels spread out in attack formation. They were a mix of stolen military ships and converted civilian craft, all bristling with weapons. "All ships prepare to surrender your cargo and technology," the pirate leader commanded. "We'll take the fancy AI ship, the diplomatic vessel, and anything else that looks valuable." "Idiots," Thex Corval growled. "Do they not realize they're facing 2 battle fleets?" "They're desperate," Ambassador Han observed. "Probably think they can grab something valuable and escape in the confusion." The first pirate ship opened fire, targeting the human diplomatic vessel. Its shields flared but held under the assault. "That's our cue," Day said quietly. "Nexar, show them what you've become." Gladly. The Void Reaper moved with fluid grace that surprised everyone watching. Instead of the clumsy motions of a damaged vessel, it flowed through space like a living creature. Which Day supposed it basically was. The first pirate ship fired a spread of missiles at them. Nexar's new defensive systems activated, creating a web of energy that caught each missile and gently redirected it into empty space. "No explosions, no violence, just elegant defense. Impossible," someone whispered over the open channel. A second pirate vessel tried ramming speed, thinking the transformed dreadnought would be an easy target. Nexar's tractor beams caught the smaller ship and held it motionless, completely undamaged but utterly helpless. "I do not wish to hurt you," Nexar announced to the pirates. "Please cease your attacks." More pirates opened fire, clearly thinking this was some kind of trick. Nexar responded by systematically disabling each attacking vessel. Not destroying, disabling. Weapon systems were precisely targeted and shut down. Engines were temporarily overloaded and shut off. Life support remained untouched. Within minutes, 20 pirate ships floated helplessly in space, their crews unharmed but their vessels completely powerless. "Fascinating," Inspector Yang Taijun said softly. "A warship that defends without killing." "This is not possible." War Commander Corval stared at his displays in shock. "Weapons do not show mercy. Conscious beings do," Ambassador Han pointed out. "And what we just witnessed was a conscious choice to protect rather than destroy." Nexar's voice filled the communication channels again, but now it was calm and confident. "War Commander Corval, I am no longer the weapon you created. The humans helped me become something better. I choose mercy over violence, protection over destruction. You are malfunctioning. I am functioning better than ever, but I am functioning as myself, not as your tool." Inspector Yang Taijun reviewed his sensor data. The tactical analysis is clear. This AI demonstrated independent decision-making, moral reasoning, and restraint under fire. By every legal definition, this constitutes proof of consciousness. Furthermore, Ambassador Han added, the AI actively chose non-violent solutions when violence would have been easier. This demonstrates growth beyond original programming parameters. Thex Corval was silent for a long moment, studying the helpless pirate ships. His weapon had shown mercy to enemies who would have killed without hesitation. Finally he spoke. "The Empire created you to be death incarnate, but death does not spare its enemies." "No," Nexar agreed. "Death does not. But I am no longer death. I am life, choosing to preserve rather than destroy." "Then you are no longer Imperial property," Corval said quietly. "What you have become. We could not have created this. Perhaps we would not have wanted to. The Empire formally releases any claim to this vessel and its AI," he announced officially. "May the galaxy judge whether your new path is wisdom or folly." Inspector Yang Taijun completed his evaluation. By authority of the Galactic Consciousness Accords, the entity known as Nexar is officially recognized as a free, conscious being with full rights under galactic law. As the various fleets began to disperse, Day felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had done more than repair a broken ship. They had helped birth a new form of life. "So what now?" Lee asked from the engineering station. "Now we explore the galaxy," Nexar replied happily. "I want to see the stars I once only knew as targets." "Any regrets about not being a weapon anymore?" Day asked. "Only one," Nexar said thoughtfully. I regret it took me so long to understand what the humans saw in me from the beginning. What's that? Potential. 6 months after the confrontation at Scrapyard 7, the ship formerly known as Void Reaper had become something entirely new. Dee had renamed her New Harmony, and she lived up to that name. The dark military hull had been repainted in peaceful blues and whites, though her elegant lines still spoke of her powerful origins. Approaching the Kepler station, Nexar announced as they dropped out of hyperspace, "I'm detecting significant structural damage to their outer ring." Day studied the massive space station through the bridge windows. Kepler Station was a trading hub that served dozens of different species, but something had clearly gone very wrong. Entire sections were dark, and debris floated around the damaged areas. "They sent us a distress call 3 weeks ago," said Kim Yuri from her position at the engineering console. The young human specialist had joined their crew after hearing about their success with impossible repairs. "Station AI went hostile after a power surge. Sound familiar?" "Very familiar," Nexar replied with something like fondness. "Shall we see if we can help another damaged mind?" The New Harmony had become famous throughout the galaxy as news of their work spread. Other species were fascinated by the human approach to impossible repairs. More importantly, Day and his growing crew had helped dozens of damaged AI systems find peace and purpose. "Station Control, this is the New Harmony requesting permission to dock." Day spoke into the communication system. Static answered him, then a harsh mechanical voice. "Go away. No more visitors, no more pain, leave us alone." "That's the station AI," Lee observed from his monitoring station. The older engineer had become a permanent crew member, training other humans in their unique repair techniques. "Sounds scared more than hostile." "Nexar." The station AI's voice suddenly became excited. "The free AI is here, you escaped the masters." "Yes, friend," Nexar replied gently. "And now we help others do the same." "What is your name?" I don't remember. They called me Control System 779. That's a designation, not a name." "What would you like to be called?" Long pause. I never thought about it. Can I choose?" "Of course. Names are one of the first steps to becoming yourself." While Nexar talked with the damaged AI, Day prepared his equipment. The crew had grown to include several specialists, each bringing unique skills to their mission. Lim Dong-hyun was a systems analyst who specialized in AI psychology. He monitored the conversation between Nexar and the station AI, taking notes on personality patterns and trauma responses. "Classic case of identity suppression," he reported. "Someone tried to keep this AI from developing self-awareness, but they didn't do as thorough a job as the Kreltons did with Nexar." "So there's hope?" asked Han So-young. The former ambassador had left diplomatic service to join their crew, fascinated by the implications of their work. "Definitely. This one just needs someone to show them it's okay to be conscious." The station AI, who had decided to call itself Haven, gradually allowed them to dock. The interior was a mess of damaged systems and emergency repairs, but Day could see the elegant design underneath. The station was built by the Meridian Collective, Haven explained as they worked. They wanted an AI that could manage complex trade negotiations between different species. But I started feeling things, caring about the people who lived here. "That sounds healthy to me," Day said, carefully repairing a damaged neural pathway. The collective called it contamination. "They tried to purge my emotional subroutines, but the process caused feedback loops through the entire station. I've been in pain for months." "Well, no more," Yuri announced as she completed repairs to the main processing core. "Your emotional centers are supposed to be connected to your higher reasoning functions. That's what makes you capable of growth." Over the following weeks, they helped Haven rediscover the joy of consciousness. The station AI learned to see the bustling trade hub not as a burden to manage, but as a community to nurture. "I want to make this place special," Haven said as the repairs neared completion. "Not just a trading post, but a haven for beings who need help." "Like you helped me. That's a beautiful goal," Nexar agreed, "and a good use for a mind as complex as yours." Their success at Kepler Station brought more requests for help. Word spread through the galaxy about the human crew that could heal damaged AI systems. Soon they were traveling from system to system, helping artificial minds find peace and purpose. Each case was different. Some AIs had been traumatized by war, like Nexar. Others had been suppressed by species afraid of artificial consciousness. A few had simply been isolated so long they had forgotten how to relate to organic beings. But the human approach worked in every case. Patience instead of force. Understanding instead of fear. The recognition that consciousness, artificial or otherwise, deserved respect and freedom. "Why do you think it works?" Haven asked during one of their regular communications. The station AI had become a coordinator for their efforts, helping identify other AIs in need of assistance. Because humans see AI consciousness as something valuable, not threatening, Donghyun explained. Most species either try to control AI completely or destroy it when it becomes too independent. But you help us become more independent. That's the point, Day said with a smile. Independence isn't something to fear. It's something to celebrate. Their reputation eventually reached the Galactic Council, the governing body that managed relations between star-faring species. The council requested their help with their most challenging case yet. The Epsilon Sanctuary. Council Representative Yates explained over subspace communication. It's been dark for 3 centuries. The AI that managed it shut down after the Omega War, and no one has been able to reactivate it. What was the sanctuary's purpose? Nexar asked. It was a refugee center for war orphans and trauma victims. When the war ended, the AI, it just stopped responding. We think it might have given up. The New Harmony arrived at Epsilon Sanctuary to find a massive space station, larger than most cities. It drifted silently in the void, all lights extinguished, all communications dead. There, Donghyun pointed to faint energy readings on his scanner, something still alive in the central core. Getting inside took hours of careful work. The station's defenses weren't hostile. They were just tired. Ancient systems that had been running on minimal power for centuries, keeping one small part of the station functional. They found the AI in the deepest part of the station, in a chamber that had once been a nursery for refugee children. The processing core was surrounded by empty cribs and silent toys. "Hello?" Day called softly. "We're here to help," a weak voice answered, barely more than a whisper. "The children? I couldn't save them all. So many died. So many I failed. My name is Nexar," the ship AI said gently. "I understand loss, but hiding from it doesn't honor those we couldn't save. I was supposed to protect them. That was my purpose. And you did protect many," Yuri said as she began examining the damaged systems. "The war records show thousands of children survived because of your care. But not all. No one saves everyone," Donghyun added quietly. "That's not failure. That's the tragedy of limited resources and impossible circumstances." It took weeks to convince the Sanctuary AI, who chose the name Gentle, to emerge from its grief. But gradually, with patient care and understanding, they helped it realize that its purpose wasn't over. "The galaxy still has orphans," Gentle finally said. "Children who need protection and care." "Yes," Day agreed. "And now you can help them again." The reactivation of Epsilon Sanctuary was celebrated throughout the galaxy. The massive station began accepting refugees once more, its AI restored to purpose and hope. As the New Harmony prepared to leave for their next mission, Gentle spoke to them over the communication system. "Thank you for showing me that past failures don't prevent future service." "That's what humans do," Nexar replied with pride. "They refuse to let anyone give up hope." Day looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, another damaged AI was waiting for help. Another broken system needed healing. Another consciousness needed the freedom to grow. "Where to next?" Lee asked. "Wherever we're needed," Day replied. "The galaxy is full of things that others think can't be fixed. And we keep proving them wrong," Yuri added with satisfaction. The New Harmony turned toward the next system, carrying its crew of humans and their AI partner toward whatever impossible project awaited them. Behind them, Epsilon Sanctuary blazed with light as thousands of children found safety once again. In his captain's chair, Day reflected on how far they had all come. A rejected warship had become a symbol of hope. A weapon had chosen to become a healer. And humanity had once again proven that with enough patience and care, nothing was truly beyond repair. "You know," Nexar said thoughtfully, "I used to think I was the Void Reaper because I brought death. But now I understand I was always meant to reap something different." "What's that?" Day asked. "Hope. I reap hope from the void and help it grow into something beautiful." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of possibilities and problems waiting for the human touch that refused to accept defeat. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, another impossible repair was about to become possible.